Let's think about now for a second what would happen if you had equal moles of strong acids and strong bases together. And they call this equimolar. If that's a term you hear, that's what it means. Now, equal moles of strong acids and strong bases mean you have equal moles, for example, of HCl and sodium hydroxide, a strong acid and a strong base. And you know what the 5 strong acids and 3 strong bases are, don't you? Go back and look at them if you don't, because they're really important. But anyway, all the strong acids and strong bases, if they're equal moles, will create water and some kind of salt. In this case, sodium chloride. It's the leftovers outside of water. That's what the salt is. But here's the punchline. The salt is not going to have any effect on pH, and water is just pH of 7. So a strong acid plus strong base should always result in a pH of 7 if the moles are equal, which is kind of interesting. Now, if you have equal moles of weak acids and strong bases, you would think that you'd have a pH of 7 as well. However, it's really interesting because the strong base and the weak acids have knocked themselves out because there's nothing of them left. But the weak acids turn into their conjugate bases. And bases, being the operative word, bases have pHs greater than 7. So if you have equal moles, weak acids, and strong bases, those two wipe each other out, and the conjugate base comes back to haunt the pH. So the pH will be greater than 7 for equal molar weak acids and strong bases. And likewise, weak bases with strong acids have something similar. What happens in these cases, the acids totally knock the weak bases out. However, the weak bases create a conjugate acid. Acid being the operative word, acid solutions will have pHs less than 7. So in a little bit, we're going to focus on these equal molar parts of a titration, as we'll see. And if you have a strong acid, strong base, the equal molar part will have a pH of about 7. On the other hand, the weak acids and strong bases will have pHs greater than 7, and weak bases and strong acids will have pHs less than 7. We'll come back to this here in a little bit. I'll show you how important this can be. This is kind of an overview of all these places. Now, equimolar has a fancy name with titrations called equivalence. So when you hear equivalence, you should think equal molar. It means the mole of the acid and the mole of the base are equal. And down there in the table, you can see there's 4 different combinations. You got strong acid plus strong base. And on the right-hand side, if you look way over there, you can see that the pH is going to be equal to 7. On the other hand, a strong acid and a weak base, if they're equal molar, the weak base is totally knocked out, but its conjugate acid starts to kick in. And acids being acidic will have pHs less than 7. So strong acid plus weak base equimolar or equivalence, those are going to have pHs less than 7. Weak acids plus strong bases have a similar process, but the weak acid has been destroyed. Its conjugate base is now the operative piece, and bases have pHs greater than 7. So that will be one way to tell if you have a weak acid plus a strong base. The pH will be basic. If you have a strong acid and a strong base, the pH should be equal to 7. Now, there are conditions where you can look up weak acid and weak base titrations, but honestly, those aren't very helpful, and we're not going to focus on them. But if you had to do this kind of question, you could do it. You would compare the Kas and the reactant side to the Kas on the product side, and the bigger Ka will push to the smaller Ka. And yes, you could do it for Kb. The bigger Kb on the reactant or product side will push towards the weaker one. It'll be the same answer for Kas and KBs. But that's more than we'll go into, but that's what you would do if you had that kind of problem. Salts, or ionic compounds, will be neutral in water if the hydronium and hydroxide concentrations are equal. And for some cases, that can happen. But what happens a lot of times with salts, which are basically just ionic compounds, is either the cation or the anion will be a little bit acidic or a little bit basic. So the question we're going to ask here, let's say we take some random salt, MX, and add it to water. Will it create an acidic solution or a basic solution? Now, ammonium chloride will be the first thing we'll think about. And ammonium chloride has a chloride, which I've made in purple there, as well as ammonium, which we'll tackle here in a little bit. So if you think about chloride, chloride could, in theory, react with water. It would take an H plus from water to make HCl, and it would leave hydroxide in its place. However, ding, 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 there's one of the strong acids, HCl. And those strong acids and strong bases do not sit well on the opposite side of the arrow. They like to push the arrows in the opposite way. That's what it means to be strong bases and strong acids. So what this means is that if hydrochloric acid were to form and hydroxide, it would only be for like a millisecond, because the HCl will quickly react with hydroxide and remake the chloride in the water. So all the strong acids and strong bases push to the other side. So chloride is not going to have an effect on pH, because if it did make HCl, which would create some hydroxide, it would just be there for a millisecond before it pushed it back towards the reactants. Chloride is considered a neutral ion. It has no effect on pH. All conjugates of strong acids and bases do not affect the pH of the solution. And this is also another reason why knowing that crazy list of strong acids and strong bases is really important, because the conjugates of the acids, chloride, bromide, iodide, nitrate, and perchlorate, as well as the conjugates of the strong bases, sodium, potassium, and lithium ion, all of those do not affect the pH of the solution. So this is also kind of cool. If you want a solution which is pH neutral, i.e. pH 7 from water, you could use things like potassium chloride. Potassium comes from KOH, chloride comes from HCl. They're not going to affect the pH. You could also use, say, lithium nitrate. Lithium from lithium hydroxide, nitrate from nitric acid. That'll create a neutral pH solution as well. But there's also ammonium in ammonium chloride. So let's think about what happens with ammonium. Now, ammonium with water will react. It'll make ammonia and hydronium. And this is something you might have seen already. Now, ammonium is actually a weak acid. It's creating hydronium, which is the product of an acid, and its conjugate base is ammonia. So ammonium is actually a moderate acid. I'd like to say a weak acid, but that sounds kind of lame. So it's just a moderate acid, all right? The ammonia itself is actually a little bit stronger than the ammonium, but that's neither here nor there. But the important part here is that ammonium and ammonia, those are both weak systems. Ammonium is a weak acid, all right? And weak acids will create a little bit of acid, like not a huge amount, but it will create a little bit. So here's the big picture. If you put ammonium chloride in water, the chloride won't affect the pH at all, but the ammonium will make the solution a little bit acidic. And if that's okay, then no problem. But what happens a lot of times is you don't want to have a pH effect. You want your solution to just be neutral. So knowing then that ammonium chloride will create an acidic solution can be really important. And it's the ammonium's fault. It's not chloride. Chloride could care less. It's just hanging out in the sidelines saying, yeah, you go, ammonium. But it's the ammonium here which is creating the slightly acidic solution. So this is what chemists think about. They need to know the effects of the pH created when you make salt solutions, when you make something with a cation and an anion. This table lists ions which are neutral, ions which are generally basic, and ions which are generally acidic. And I want to look at the neutral ones because all of those neutral ions are essentially the conjugates of strong acids or strong bases. Now the anions look very familiar. Chloride from HCl, nitrate from HNO3, etc., etc. No effect on pH. Now the cations I've wanted you to know are lithium, sodium, potassium. Those are the three strong bases we're looking at. Now honestly, magnesium hydroxide, which is where the Mg2 plus comes from, and calcium hydroxide and barium hydroxide, barium 2 plus, those are all more or less strong bases as well. But I don't care if you know those. All right, I just want you to know the simple ones. But those are also going to be neutral pH parts if you need to have a solution. Now, the basic anions are all negative, all right? So more often than not, if you have to guess, the basic anions will be the negative ones, all right? That's not all the time the case, because you can see under the acidic column there's some negative anions as well that are acidic, but they all have hydrogen, so that's another kind of thing to guess, but anyway, it's not easy. But anyway, they all have an effect on pH, though, and that's important. Now, aluminum's kind of a weirdo. Aluminum can be a base and it can be an acid. So notice that aluminum is a base under the cations, and aluminum can be an acid there under the cations as well. So it's very strange. But I would like to highlight here how transition metal cations generally create acidic solutions. So like iron 3+ is notorious for making your solution a little bit acidic. Most transition metals will do that. We'll talk about this later, but just realize in the back of your mind that most transition metals will make an acidic solution. And there's ammonium that we saw earlier. Because ammonium is a positive ion, it will create a slightly acidic solution. So here's a question. Will 0.1 molar sodium carbonate solution have a pH which is less than, greater than, or equal to 7? It's asking us basically if it's acidic, less than 7, basic, greater than 7, or neutral, equal to 7. So to answer a question like this, you have to break sodium carbonate down to the cation and the anion. And sodium, Na+, that's the conjugate of NaOH, a strong base. So the Na+ is not going to affect your pH, no problem. Carbonate, on the other hand, is not the conjugate of a strong acid, strong base. So we would suspect that carbonate will have an effect on pH. That's going to get rid of the neutral answer here. And most of the time, the negative anions will be somewhat basic. So carbonate, for example, likes to grab an H+ to become hydrogen carbonate. That can only happen if it's basic. So that's why I would guess here that answer B would be right, because carbonate, like most negative anions, is probably going to have a base effect. And if you look back on that list, it certainly is. Now, another way to answer this question is you could look up carbonate for a Kb or a Ka on the table of acids and bases. And Kb is listed there, 2.1 times 10 to the minus 4. It's actually a fairly strong weak base. 2.1 times 10 to the minus 4 is a pretty large Kb overall. So this should have a pH which is greater than 7 when you place it in water. And again, the sodium isn't affecting anything. It's the carbonate here. Sodium carbonate, the sodium plus water, no effect on pH, neutral. Sodium is the conjugate of NaOH. But carbonate in water will create hydrogen carbonate and hydroxide. The Kb for the carbonate, 2.1 times 10 to the minus 4. So let's say we wanted to find the pH of a 0.10 molar solution of sodium carbonate. No problem. You could set up the ice table. We initially have 0.10 moles per liter carbonate. We don't have any hydrogen carbonate or hydroxide initially. Carbonate will go down by X. The other two will increase by X. So at equilibrium, 0.10 minus X for carbonate and X for the other two. So just like we saw earlier, you would set all of these equal to Kb. So that would be X times X, or X squared, divided by 0.10 minus X. Now 100 times Kb we should check and see if it's less than concentration of the base. And 100 times Kb is like basically taking the 10 to the minus 4 and adding 2 to the exponent. So 2.1 times 10 to the minus 4 times 100 would be 2.1 times 10 to the minus 2. And 2.1 times 10 to the minus 2 would be 0.021. And that is less than 0.10. 0.10 would be 1.0 times 10 to the minus 1. So 100 times K is less than C. We are justified in pulling out that minus X. So if you do that, then X equals square root Kb times Cb, it comes out to be 0.0046. Now, notice on this one, I did solve for the exact values using a quadratic formula in my calculator. calculator. And I did get positive 0.0045. So it's amazingly close to 0.0046, but obviously it's a little bit different. Now the quadratic formula does give better values. However, 100 times k is less than c, so I would use the approximation as well, and I would call the difference 0.0046 to 0.0045 as just scientific kind of issues. It's the doubtful digit. That last digit is the most uncertain number when you make a measurement. So this isn't a big deal to me. That's why 100 times k less than c absolutely works here. But remember in the back of your mind that quadratics are a better way to go. If the hydroxide is 0.0046, minus log of that number comes out to be 2.34. And pH would be equal to 14 minus POH. So 14 minus 2.34 comes out to be 11.66. So this solution is basic. No problem. If you wanted to, you could use 14 plus log square root KB times CB. And honestly, this way is so much easier. You don't need ice tables and POH to pH and all that jazz. What I would do in this example, 100 times K is less than C, like we talked about. So 14 plus log square root 2.1 times 10 to the minus 4, the KB, times 0.10, the CB. And that does come out to be 11.66. So this is a huge time saver if you're comfortable with it. It's a little weird to go 14 plus log square root, parentheses, et cetera, but if you can get the 11.66, you got this down. You're going to get a high grade on the next test. Sorry, I couldn't resist throwing that in there. Crazy instructors.